Indiana, he was very competitive in, which he did better than expected, but he still lost. Michigan, of course, he wasn't in the ballot. He wasn't on the ballot, but he wouldn't have won. He wouldn't have won Michigan anyway. He got beaten pretty badly in Ohio. He got beaten pretty badly in Pennsylvania, and he got slaughtered in West Virginia and Kentucky. So these are states that, for the key region of the country, is one of Hillary Clinton's major talking points. That here in this key region in the Rust Belt, I did much better than Senator Obama. Now, as we'll see, there are other areas of the country that Obama can win the election. He can win the election in the Southeast. He can win the election in the Southwest, as we'll see a little bit later on. But no matter who you are, you have to at least hold your own in the Rust Belt. You have to win some of these states. You may not have to win all of these states. If it's pretty much split, as it's been the last two elections, then perhaps you look to other areas of the country for the decisive component. But if, for example, McCain were to win Pennsylvania and Michigan and hold Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, that would pretty much mean the election. If Obama manages to flip Ohio, that would be very, very strong in his favor. So you have really key swing states over here that could really go either way. The swing states, again, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all of them very key swing states. Of the four, I'd say Michigan probably leans Democrats. The other three are true swing states and really are within 2 or 3 percentage points either way. Although in early polling, McCain is doing very well in Michigan also, so you really never know. You really could have 4 key swing states over here. I put as a Democratic target Indiana, again, just because Indiana was so strong for the Democrats in the 2006 election. You never really know, although, again, I think, and also, there are Indiana, there are Chicago suburbs in the northwest part of Indiana, places like Gary, that may support Obama. But again, I don't think that Indiana is too realistic a state for Obama. But he doesn't need Indiana. He needs to take Ohio, if he can. He needs to hold Wisconsin. He needs to hold Pennsylvania, and that will certainly be more than adequate for him in this region. Okay, so again, the best bets to settle the election are in this region. It always is. This is really the key swing region. This is really McCain's best chance. Remember, McCain is vulnerable in the Southeast. As we'll see later on, he's vulnerable in the Southwest, both of them Bush regions. He is not going to make inroads in the Kerry-Gore regions. This is where McCain really has the making up to do. He can win the election by holding on to all the Bush states. He can certainly do that. Or he can really focus on the Rust Belt. Try to flip Michigan. Try to flip Pennsylvania. This is what he's probably going to try to do. Many of the things he's going to say, don't be surprised if you see him spending a lot of time in places like Harrisburg and Lansing and whatnot. He's going to try to flip these states for all they're worth, because if he does, he's going to be the next president of the United States. Okay. Again, so Obama can do somewhat poorly and still win, but again, he needs to keep at least 2 of the swing states. He could win in other regions. For example, let's say, for example, McCain flips Michigan, but Obama still holds Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Illinois. That is, again, Obama does have other areas of the country where he can make that up, but this is a region where McCain really has a big opportunity. McCain needs to keep the Bush states in the region and would dearly love to poach Michigan and Pennsylvania or both. A sweep of Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania would really help McCain. If McCain manages to win Pennsylvania and Michigan, he's not going to win Illinois. He's probably not going to win Wisconsin, considering how well Obama did there in the primary. But it's certainly possible for him to win Pennsylvania and Michigan, which probably means that he wins the election. Our next region, the plains, or the upper Midwest, kind of the mountain states, and most of the plain states, a few of the mountain states. This is a region with small states. Big states geographically, but small states from a population standpoint. Generally, you're talking about a socially conservative region, other than Minnesota, and generally you're talking about a very strong Republican region, again, other than Minnesota. You have Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. I could have put Minnesota with the Rust Belt, or made a new region for the Great Lakes states, but I figured that Minnesota, not really so much a swing state, not as much in terms of labor-oriented, so I decided to put Minnesota over here, even though it's pretty much at odds with the rest of the region. Now, I've heard pundits like Chris Matthews, for example, say that Obama will have a strong chance to poach some of these states. He did very well in the primary in many of these states, in states like Montana and North Dakota. Well, I don't remember about Wyoming, but the thing is, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen. This is a very socially conservative region, not the kind of region that you'd expect a liberal Democrat to be able to pick up too easily, many of these states. And second of all, I don't think Obama's going to spend much time or money on these plain states, on these very small plains and mountain states. First of all, because it's probably not going to work anyway. He's not going to win Oklahoma. He's not going to win Kansas, even if he picks Kathy Sabelis as the Kansas governor as his vice presidential candidate. He's still not going to win Kansas. And so he's not going to try, and if he's not going to try very hard, and if he did try very hard, it wouldn't really work anyway. There are two very important states in this region, though, and those are Minnesota and Iowa. Minnesota has been generally a swing state, although just because it's been close, but it's been trending more Democrat, and this year, I think there's very little chance that McCain has to win Minnesota. First of all, Minnesota is a very socially liberal state, as opposed to many of the other states around here. And number two, Minnesota is a state that has cast its electoral college votes for Democrats in each of the last. It's the longest running streak in the country. I think it's been since. I don't even know when the last time Minnesota has voted for a Republican. Recall that in 1984, Minnesota was the only state in the country, other than the District of Columbia, to vote for its native son, Walter Mondale, against Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan won 49 states, and Mondale won Minnesota. And he barely won Minnesota. He won by like a few hundred votes or something like that. Okay, so Minnesota, I think, is safely in the Obama column. The rest of these states, Oklahoma on west over here, are pretty much safely in the McCain column. The one big swing state over here is Iowa. Iowa is a state that is very much a swing state. Again, it's not considered such a critical state because it only has 7 electoral college votes. You don't hear about it that much, but it's a state that it's one of only 3 states in the country that flipped between 2000 and 2004. It went from Gore in 2000 to Bush in 2004. And Iowa is a state that, if you remember, gave Obama really its head start. It's the first caucus state, and Obama won, beating Hillary pretty badly in the Iowa caucuses, that started his rise and started Hillary's downfall. And recently, the polls have shown Obama with a sizable lead. I mean, even though it's a completely white state, there are very few African Americans in the states, Iowa really has been very strong for Obama in recent polling. Don't underestimate the fact that many Iowans feel proud of the fact that they gave Obama his jump start, and that actually might help Obama a lot come the fall. Okay, so this region, again, you have 10 states, only 51 electoral college votes, only a little over 5 votes per state, showing how small many of these states are from a population standpoint. Very conservative, except for Minnesota, which is quite socially liberal. It's generally a Republican stronghold, again, except for Minnesota. Obama did very well in these primaries. That's why I mentioned there are many pundits who have thought that this could be a region where Obama could do well in. Obama won Montana, Idaho, Nebraska. I don't remember about these states. Iowa, of course, Minnesota he won. He did very, very well in these primaries. Still, I don't think it's really going to be that competitive for most of these states. Iowa, of course, is a key swing state. A target, I put a potential Republican target as Minnesota just because it generally is pretty close, and there's also a very important Senate election in Minnesota between Senator Norm Coleman and comedian, I guess, Al Franken, and we'll see how that goes. Coleman's actually leading in that election, so who knows? Maybe that could spur McCain if Coleman does very well against Franken. Who knows what kind of an effect that will have? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe Obama doing well in Minnesota will help Franken ride his coattails against Coleman. Now, I put Montana as a potential Democratic target, and it's very possible that Montana could be competitive this year. Bill Clinton did win Montana, I think, 1 out of the 2 elections, so it certainly is possible for a Democrat to win Montana. Montana is very independent-minded, very obviously nature type of state, that's given us such wonderful things as mad cow disease and not mad cow disease. Now someone's going to sue me for defamation against Montana. Gave us the Unabomber and the ranch up there, the Friedman Ranch or something like that, the Friedman Ranch that where we had the federal standoff a few years back. Anyway, so Montana can be competitive. Montana is another state that Democrats picked up a big Senate seat with John Tester defeating Conrad Burns a couple of years back in 2006. So it could be competitive, but again, who cares? It's only 3 votes. It could be decisive. It could make a difference, but